coming to life.
Can you still take the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so got to be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checker. You are fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.
And welcome back to Racing and then Draft. My name is Mark. Hope everyone is having a wonderful Saturday evening in the first weekend of May. You know, I thought May was supposed to be warmer, and it's cold in Virginia. It's like 50 degrees outside. I don't like it at all. I'm ready for actual spring to get here and summer to get here. I'm tired of being cold at this point, but we'll get through it. But hopefully everybody got a chance to watch the O'Reilly race from Texas Motor Speedway earlier this evening or afternoon, where Kyle Larson ended up edging out Justin Allgaier to get the win, his back-to-back win at Texas. And maybe we will see him go to victory lane for the first time in a long time tomorrow at the Worth 400. But either way, before we do that, what an exciting race last week. I mean, the race was actually kind of boring in points, and then of course we had the big one, which was to be expected, and took a lot of the at least chalk for Draftkings out in the big one. Typically, you're hoping that it doesn't take out the guys that you put most of your lineups into, but either way, I mean, it was chalk for a reason, and a lot of other people had them in their lineups. But let's take a look back at the historic Carson Hocevar win, and what a unique victory celebration. I tell you what, I kept going back and forth, and I still do a little bit on whether I like this kid or I don't like this kid, or is he good for the sport or is he not good for the sport. I can't ever kind of make up my full mind on it. But I tell you what, after this week and him just making himself fully available to almost every media outlet that was out there. I mean, literally, I might have called him and he might have said yes if I could have lined up a time. I mean, I think the kid did like, I don't know, 20, 25 hours of interviews this week alone. And honestly, to make a name for yourself and to put yourself as a name that everybody knows, he's figured it out. Sure, he's controversial at times. Sure, he does some crazy, wild moves that make other drivers not like him. But I tell you what, I have to give the respect to this kid for coming up with just doing things his own way. And it's refreshing to see. It's something I think NASCAR has really needed for a long time between Carson Hocevar and Cletus McFarlane, you know, and that whole group of just these young guys that are just willing to put themselves out there, and they don't really give a damn. And I think they're good for the sport. I enjoy it. I think it's going to bring more eyeballs to the sport, which is good. Lost Profit, what's up, buddy? I was really happy to see those guys. Yeah. And I mean, Spire is a team that thinks outside the box. They don't have the same typical thought process. I mean, of course, it's, you know, how do we get to victory lane? But they don't always go about it the same way all the other teams have done, and it really is refreshing. And I hope they continue to do it, and hopefully they don't get caught up in the corporate mess. And I don't think they will. They have massively deep pockets and investors. If I remember correctly, I think the Gainbridge Group, which has stakes with the Indiana Fever, the team that Caitlin Clark pays on. I think they have deep investment into, I think, the Indianapolis Colts, into Indy racing, and a couple other sports. I think they're part of the LA Dodgers. So they have very, very deep pockets, and they're not willing. They're not afraid to use that money to take chances and risks, and it definitely shows. And Carson Hocevar is probably going to be the face of Spire for many years to come. I mean, there was a reason why they went after Daniel Suarez. Is they also know that there is an international market for NASCAR, and Daniel has that face for the international market, especially in the Hispanic community, and into Central America and South America. So I think all in all, that's good for the sport. It's branching us out. We just need to make sure that the sport stays true to its roots, and that's what I've liked so far this year. Is they have gone back to the roots. They have gone to the hell yeah, we don't give a damn. We're gonna race V8s. We're gonna be loud. We're gonna be crazy and all that stuff. So all in all, I think it's really good. I'm happy to see where the sport is headed, and Dega was Dega. And the lineups don't change. I mean, Carson Hocevar was the highest starting position driver. Beyond that, it was 20th, 24th, 29th, 30th, and 34th for the starting spots. It's rinse and repeat when we go to these things. Just because there's no ability for dominator points to really add up. I mean, if we look at the laps led, it's Carson Hocevar led 19. Ross Chastain led 22. We look further down to guys that didn't make it. Chris Buescher did start in 10th, and Chase Elliott started in 8th, but they didn't make the optimal. But Chris Buescher led 22. Nobody led over 12 laps, which was Noah Gragson, or had fast laps other than Noah Gragson, which had 12. So the dominator points just get spread out, that they don't really matter. It's all based on finishing position. And if you find the right 6 drivers, you end up with $7,000 left on the table, which was to be expected, and 369 points, and you can take down a tournament. And there were a couple questions last week, was, how many of these lineups are going to be chalky? And I started to go back and look, or how many of these would be repeat. And I guess maybe if Blaney and Logano had made it into the optimal lineup, we may have potentially seen, a shared pot for these guys, but we didn't. So, I'm not even sure, looking back, I meant to go look if anybody even had this lineup as a lineup last week in like the Chrome Horn or something. I can pull it up fairly quickly. Of course, I read so many darn lineups that I got to get through. The truck and Xfinity, which I won $50 in the trucks, and I lost like $60 in the O'Reilly series today. So I'm down 10 for the weekend, but I hit a 4-game baseball parlay yesterday, which netted an extra $200 and $250. So that was a nice way to finish off my Friday. The Chrome Horn from last week. Let's see if anybody had the optimal lineup. 362. Nope. So the highest. Here, I'll just pull this over so you can see it too. The highest was 362.55 in the Chrome Horn. It was shared by another person, so two people had this lineup, but nobody had the actual optimal lineup for the race. So, if you were fortunate enough to end up having this, which nobody in Chrome Horn did, it would have taken down the pot in $20,000. So, Lost Profit goes, I almost took down the $5. The winner had that lineup, but Busher was in it. Okay. So I guess, let's see, Busher was at 8,300. I mean, you could have substituted Busher in for anybody. Do you remember who was not in it? Was it Carson or I don't know, but yeah, I mean, you could have easily put Busher in, which was a top 10 starter, and put him in for, I mean, pretty much anybody. You would have finished pretty close to the top. You don't remember us, yeah, and that's fine. But I think that was a question or maybe even I had the question for myself was, with this potentially being a little bit of a chalky race last week because it was pretty clear on at least who some of the big name drivers that could make place differential up. Do we end up sharing the pot with others? And sure, but I mean, once again, okay, I split the pot with somebody in the Chrome Horn. I mean, you're still going to make over 10,000. I don't think anybody's going to cry over hitting a $10,000 pot in a day. Andrew, what's up, buddy? I hope $16,000 for a driver doesn't become the norm on DK like Larson was today. Well, I mean, so far this year it has been the norm. That is for sure. I mean, I haven't looked to see what the optimal lineup was for that. Let's see. Did the winning lineup have it? Yeah, Kyle Larson, 84 points. So yeah, he would be that probably would put him into an optimal lineup. That is for sure. So yeah, share this and look at it real quick. Kyle Larson, $16,000, but he got 84.2 points. Yeah. And whoever Sean Taylor is took down the Chrome Horn, winning $1,000. MJ Wheeler had Allgaier at 72 points. So I mean, if you could somehow have figured out how to run both of them, I'm not sure that's even possible. But yeah, I mean, it looks like probably 305 with Kyle Larson at $16,000. I mean, LeVar Scott at 42 points. Ryan Ellis, I mean, literally taking shotgun and next to shotgun on the back of the field was a winning lineup. That's crazy. He was the guy that took down the Millie a couple years ago. Oh, really? He was in Chris Penn's DFS Discord. Okay, cool. Oh, are you talking about the guy that had the Busher, or are we talking about the Kyle Larson event today? But either way, yeah, we'll probably see more repeat or duplicates from tomorrow's race than I think we do for last week's, just because there's so many different variables that you could play at super speedways and still finish really well. Oh, Sean Tyler, a trailer. It is in Chris DFS Discord. Okay. Speaking of Discord and DFS, I am probably, I think this week, going to get that Discord up and running. What it looks like, I don't know for sure, but I now have my AI agents actually going back through these videos and giving me what they call a markdown or a summary. And, from last week, pretty much this is what it spit back at me was my core plays. Mark's primary 15 targets, Logano, Blaney, McDowell, and their starting spots: Alex Bowman, Kyle Busch, Zane Smith, Noah Gragson, Connor Zilic. And it's got the 15 core plays that I had. Then the sub-core plays: Austin Cindric, Christopher Bell, Cole Custer, Todd Gillen, Jesse Love. Oh yeah, and I was dead on right to look at putting all three of the front row guys in last week. Fades, yep. Cody Ware, Riley Herbst. I mean, Cody Ware actually was a decent play last week. But it goes through my cost strategy, my GPS, and everything. It literally deciphered all this. I didn't write any of this. I just told AI to go listen to it and tell me what it all said. And this is what it all spit back out of me. Pretty cool. And it's going to end up doing that. So we'll finish this video somewhere probably about 11 o'clock tonight. And overnight at like 4 or 5 in the morning, my AI will then give me that full summary. And what I'm hoping to do, it won't be this week's, but the following week when I have the Discord up, it'll just spit it out into the Discord. So if you happen to have missed something on the video, or you need to go back and you're like, I forgot what he said about that, it hopefully would be in the summary. So that's part of the reason for the Discord, is to be able to do that. And then I'll also have other things and have, places to chat either with me or with each other and those types of things. So it's coming. I know I keep saying I'm working on it. I really am. But it's not being, I mean, I'm fairly much a techie, but I don't have real great knowledge of AI. I do now, but it's taken me 2 months to get to that point. So it's a work in progress, and what I'm going to end up having to do. I mean, the other thing I'm now having to do, because like I'm sitting here scratching my head going, why were there 12, or I think it was 12 cautions last year for this Texas race? And without going back and watching the whole thing, I can go back and watch the 15-minute summary video on YouTube. But one of the things it does now is let's see. Yeah, here's the race summary from last week's thing, that the AI went and watched the entire race, or got the transcript for the entire race, and literally broke everything down between stage by stage breakdowns. Laps 1 through 98. The opening stage at Talladega was a fuel strategy chess match at 185 miles an hour with qualifying canceled, blah, blah, blah. Reyes Jr. timed his run perfectly, closing laps of the stage, utilizing strong Chevy push to take stage 1, stage 2, key incidences and cautions. So literally, instead of going back and watching the full entire race, I can then, for next week, I can go and just, next year I can go look, or when Talladega comes back up, I can go look at this and be like, oh, what happened during that race? Where did they end up? Where did they go? So I've got it doing that one. I've got it giving me a full breakdown of course, my video, door bumper clear, the teardown, Eric E. steps right after the race. He does a breakdown video. So I'm just building a database with all of these different podcasts and all the data sets that are out there that I normally do. And it's just going to help build out that process. And what my goal is to eventually have a lot of that being fed into the Discord for the community. Yeah, it's going to be nice to be able to fall back on and really look when we go to do these videos. I can go and look at the last 2 races at Texas and go, why was it such an absolute mess? I mean, we're looking at the last 3 races at Texas all being over 11 cautions. We had an 11, 16, and a 12 cautions. Was that all tire wear? Was that people wrecking each other? What was the cause for all those cautions? And I can go back and look at those notes. Or eventually, what I like to be able to do is actually have a chat bot that's actually here live in the video. And if I'm sitting here scratching my head about something, I can just click on it and ask it, and it'll talk to us. I don't know if anybody's ever watched Ryan Hall Y'all, but he's got his Y'all bot that he can have a conversation with. That's my eventual goal, is to be able to do these videos and have a little sidekick and be like, hey, NASCAR bot, what do you think about this? Or what happened at this point in time? and it'd be able to go and answer the questions actually not just in a written text, but actually in a voice. That'd be kind of cool. So those are some of the things I'm just processing in my head of how do I get to that spot. Before we finish with this, the optimal lineup challenge really didn't change much of the top. Ty Gibbs still has 6, Tyler Reddick with 5, Brett Kozlowski with 5, Denny Hamlin with 4. And these are all going to be probably pretty strong plays for this weekend. All right, so last time we were here at Texas, after 12 cautions, Joey Logano ended up taking the win here at Texas. And it's amazing what a year has done for the Penske's and the Fords. Because the Fords right now on 1.5-mile tracks seem to be absolutely out to lunch. And even in practice today, the Fords just don't have the raw speed or handling for these 1.5 miles, and it doesn't look to me any better. The only Ford group that seems to be even halfway there is RFK. And I think actually Chris Buescher may be a strong play for this weekend. But we'll get to that. Joe Logano won last year. Texas is a 1.5-mile track. It has been reconfigured. Turns 1 and 2 are now completely different than turns 3 and 4. They used to be fairly similar. This used to be a lot like Vegas and Kansas and Charlotte and Chicagoland and the rest of them. But they knocked turn 1 and 2 down to only 20 degrees, and turns 3 and 4 are still the original 24 degrees. And to be honest, they only use about 1 to 2 lanes of the racetrack in both of those turns. And really, the really short way around, or the really long way around, is really slow. If you go through 1 and 2 and you're in the third lane, you're probably going to hit the wall. Even though the wall's an extra 20 feet away. It's just the marbles build up so bad up there and there's just no grip. Daniel Pope says, "What's up? I responded to your email." Yeah, cool. I'll look at it after this, even though I stuck at emails. That's why I want to get the Discord also working, is because I don't look at emails anymore. I used to when I had corporate jobs and it was something that you just lived your life on, but I don't really look at emails that much anymore. Not saying you can't email me. Just sometimes I may not be the fastest to respond. But stage breaks for this race are 80 and then 165, which is about an 85 lap difference, but 6 to 7. Ha, my son would laugh at me. Is going to be under caution. So they probably, the shortest stage is going to be stage 2, and it's probably going to be about 75 laps. And then we'll have, 100 and probably about a 95 lap run to the end. They cannot make it on fuel. Definitely cannot make it on tires. It is absolutely split the stages in half, probably depending on cautions, because this race seems to be caution filled. If it doesn't happen to, you're splitting it 40-40 and, 35 to 40. And then the last one would be the biggest. It would probably be about a 45 to 50 lap run. You can make it on tires. They will, for the most part, hold up. You're not going to have much grip left. But you can definitely make it on fuel. Oh no. Baby Henry's in the hospital? Sorry to hear about that, Daniel. With RSV. I mean, that sucks. I will definitely make sure I say a prayer for baby Henry. And hope for a speedy recovery. At least it is something that is very recoverable from, but still tough to deal with a sick baby. That's no fun at all. Well, hopefully Henry gets well very soon. We will definitely make sure that we are thinking and praying for him. So keep your spirits up. He's going to need it. So tracks to compare to: Kansas, Vegas, Charlotte, Miami. In a couple weeks, we're going to go to Chicagoland. Very similar type track. And I'm hearing rumor there's a 50-50 shot we go back to Kentucky. It's another 1.5-mile track, but it's also very, very unique. Even though the configuration is very similar, the the racing there would be phenomenal in this next gen car, I think. GPP would win. Yes. A GPP win will take your mind off of a lot of things. Yeah, we'll all hope for that to happen. All right, so other optimal lineups from Texas, and we only go here once a year, so we have 25 and 24 on this page. But the optimal lineup, it's pretty close to being rinse and repeat here. It's start them from the back, but take one guy that's going to be your dominator. Rinse and repeat. 2024, most of your guys starting from the back, one dominator, or one, actually, it really isn't even a dominator. I mean, 37 laps led, 42 fast laps. Not really a true dominator per se. Yeah, and $1,700 left, $1,300 left. It's a lot like a super speedway, to be honest. It changes a little bit when we get a little bit further back. I'm fixing it so that way it's always right. Oops, what did I do? Hit the wrong button. See what I did. 2023 and 22. 2023, same thing. 18, 22, 31, 29, 24. And the guy starting from the pole, led 100 laps. So one dominator, 5 people with place differential. The 2022 race was slightly different. We had 2 guys that started up front and finished up front. But after that, the rest of it's all place differential. So it's a lot of place differential for this race. Reason being is a lot of cautions, which means a lot of carnage, a lot of wrecks. They're not big wrecks. It's 1 or 2 cars that are having issues. But when you have 9 of them and they're taking 2 cars at a time, that's the equivalent to one big one at Talladega or Daytona. So the lineups end up getting built the same. Why Texas does that? Why the race at Texas is that way? I think it's because you have 2 different corners, and the cars are you've got to set up for one or the other. And if you try to set up for both, you're not fast in either one, and you're not slow in either one. And aggressive driving. I don't know if the new points format and the not winning your in thing will maybe change how it's driven. But I mean, so far this year, we have not seen that it's changed any of the aggression level. They're still all very much aggressive. So we wanted to make sure we look at the points for the high price drivers so we know where we need to draw the line for our core 15, or what I call the core 15, who we think might want to be the guys that we pay up for, and who do we fall back on. And it's about 60 points. We had a couple races in the low 50s. We had some in the 60 to 69 points. So I think it's just really kind of about 60 points is going to be close to that threshold of, do I think this driver has the chance to be optimal, or do I think this driver does not potentially be in the optimal? But that doesn't mean you necessarily don't run them, because you need to fill in the gaps with some of the cheaper drivers. I mean, it's like Ty Dillon at $5,100 only got 42 points. So, and Ty Dillon twice. What do you know? Finishing 12th and 16th. I mean, when Ty Dillon's getting in the teens for finishings, you know that there's a lot of carnage. Not that Ty Dillon's all that bad, but he's not great. Daniel says, I built a dummy lineup, 4 place differentials, 1 from the teens, and Kyle Busch. Over $1,000 left over. Yeah, I don't think that's all that bad. And yes, my guy Zane is in that lineup. We're gonna need a lot of carnage for the front row guys to make up positions. They're not going to do it on raw speed. Their practice speeds were not good, and not just even in the single lap or the 10 lap. It just carried all the way through for all of the front row guys. So it carried over that way for all the forwards. To be perfectly honest, except for the RFK team. I mean, Joy was okay. Ryan Blaney was not Ryan Blaney-esque, that's for sure. Daniel says, guess I should buy some Zane gear at some point if he helps me take. Yeah, if he takes if you go and hit 10 grand on a GPP, you probably should, and he's in it. You probably should be buying a Zane shirt. That he's a good driver. I like him. In fact, I like all the guys in front row. I like that team. It's young. It's up and coming. They just don't have the money that Spire's got. And other than Michael McDowell, Spire's pretty young. Either way, so the optimal lineup was that. All right, so now we're looking at where do the core 15 start from? And it's kind of funny is we look through the optimals, and the optimals don't have a whole lot of people that are starting in the top 10. But once we look at the point breakdown, the guys that are starting in the top 10 still end up in the top 15. I know it doesn't quite correlate correctly, but it does because they're 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. You know, their point totals are lower. So they don't make the optimal and they're more expensive. So, but either way, to get into... So the top 15 need to score 35 points or more. Optimal drivers need to be in that 50 to 60 point or more range. And that becomes important when we start to build out our lineups and starting to look at who may be good, who may not be good, who's going to really... It's going to be a real heavy lift to get to 60 points or even sometimes even to 35 points. Daniel says he did help me win $500 at Daytona. Well, there is that. I mean, $500 win. Go get an eBay T-shirt of it. Spend $10, $15. I'm kidding. Buy one from his store. It helps them out. So yeah, I mean, it's one dominator is really what we're looking at per lineup. Maybe one finishing position, because I mean, you could put two dominators in, because this still shows that even the guys that are starting in the top 10 may not make optimal. And as we just saw for Talladega last week, you don't necessarily have to have the optimal to take down a GPP. You just need to be close. So, like, I think somebody was saying that Chris Buescher was in a winning lineup from a GPP. Well, he was not in the optimal. He was close, but he wasn't in the optimal. So having one driver difference that still ends up having a good finishing today, and he's 2 points off of being in the optimal, then it's still going to win you money. And that's why I like looking at who are my core 15 drivers at the start. And then I'm looking at my sub 8 drivers. And then the rest of them, unless I have to pick somebody at the bottom of the barrel to fit a lineup, I know that I've gotten rid of 10 to 15 drivers. All right. So either way, let's get into the driver by driver breakdown. Starting with Denny Hamlin, $11,000 on DraftKings. And this is the first race other than Circuits of the America COTA that we are going to this track once and once only this year. So we don't have a whole lot of data. So instead of going back to 2022 or 2021, when either we didn't have the next gen car or the next gen car was so new that nobody knew what to do with it, and that data kind of it's a little funky. So I don't like including it when looking back. So we're going to look at the last 3 Texas races, 2025, 2024, and 2023, and the most recent race at Kansas and Vegas, because they're both 1.5-mile tracks. Shaped differently, the tire wear is different, a lot of those things are different. They typically have super long green flag runs, where Texas does not typically have long green flag runs. So there is different variables, but it's still a 1.5-mile track, still 267 laps. You build similar types of lineups. So that's why it comes into play. So when we're looking at these 5 races, that translates to this line down here, which for Denny Hamlin means he has, in those 5 races, the 3 at Texas, Kansas, and 1 at Kansas, 1 at Vegas, he's got 1 win, 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 3 top 20s, a 45.9 Draftkings average, 15.6 average finish, and an average running position of 10.7. Now, the finish for the last race was last year's Texas race, where Denny Hamlin finished 38th. And then the total starts at Texas. Now, remember, they reconfigured this, I think it was like 12 years ago. 35 total starts, 3 wins, 8 top 5s, 16 top 10s, 27 top 20s, and a 14.5 average finishing spot over those 35 starts. Then we look at his practice history, or the practice from earlier today. He is qualified in 4th. Good starting spot for Denny Hamlin, who's really good at 1.5-mile tracks. The Toyotas seem to have really good speed. In practice, he was 7th in practice on single lap, 33 total laps of practice, and he was 2nd on the 10-lap consecutive average. That's 10 consecutive laps without coming to pit road for an adjustment. And that's important because, as you see, he did 33 laps, and he was 2nd in the 10 lap. Now we can look at the actual practice speeds in the practice chart. And I didn't update this, so this may not be right. I think he was actually in Group 2. No, he was in... Was he in Group 1 or 2? I think he was in Group 2. I don't know. It's not that important. It is with super high tire wear tracks. But either way, Tyler Reddick is one of the drivers who is our constant. William Byron is one of our constant. So Denny Hamlin is the driver we're looking at. He is in yellow. The white is the average for all drivers, from the slowest guy to the fastest guy. Tyler Reddick and William Byron were fastest in either single lap or in the 10-lap consecutive run. And looking at it, the biggest thing I like to look at is who had the best and most consistent time over all of practice. That's honestly Tyler Reddick. He was even beating William Byron on the long run. Denny Hamlin was not bad. He's faster on most laps than the average. He's also qualified in 4th, so he needs to be. Unless we think he's going to drop back, then we probably don't put him in our main core lineup. But with that being said, I'd like to see this chart. I don't mind 1 lap with a spike in time. 1's not a problem. 2 or 3 that are back-to-back means you've got some handling issues or some balance issues or things of that nature, and it makes me question how good you actually are on speed. Carson Hocevar used to be the worst. It would literally look like a Richter scale going off for his practice times, and be like, I can't make heads or tails of any of that. But 1 little blip probably means they pushed one corner too hard, or they ran up on lap traffic, or they were letting a faster car make their first laps or first laps in a run or after an adjustment or whatnot. And they were like, you know what? This guy's on a heater. I'm going to let him go do his run. I'm going to back off and let him get by, which will slow your lap down. So one blip like this is not a problem. 2, 3, 4 becomes an issue that I like to be able to make sure I visualize. But our fall offs, we're kind of right here in the 28.5 to 29. And it really only falls off to about a second. And it just kind of hovers there. I mean, the average is right at 29, and by the end of 25 laps, it's about 30. So it's about a 1 second fall off on speed, but it does kind of equalize itself out after about 10 laps. So track position is going to be king. Clean air is going to be king. Same thing we saw at the Xfinity race or the O'Reilly race earlier today. Justin Allgaier was able to get to Kyle Larson, but was not able to make the pass because of dirty air. Now, if he'd probably had another 4 to 5 laps, he may have been able to make a charge. But Kyle Larson also, was mirror driving and using dirty air to keep Justin Allgaier from making the pass. The Xfinity car is not quite as bad as the Cup car, but there's still an aero blocking capability in both. All right, so this is our calculator that we can actually calculate what we think we need in the way of points. Oh, and I forgot to update everybody else's. So 60 points plus for our expensive drivers for optimal. Once we get down below 7,000, it's going to be realistically about 50 points. And, the real super value drivers, the ones that are in the 5,000 range, could probably even go down to about 40 points. But for our core 15, top 15 drivers we're looking at, it's about 34 to 35 points is kind of where we need to be. So 60 points on the high end to be in the optimal, 35 points or more to be potentially in our core 15. And then if not, we don't have a great feeling about it or they don't have great history, maybe then are our sub-core. And then there are some that we're going to just be like, nope, I'm not interested. Like Chad Fincham, I didn't even make a chart for him. I just have no interest. He's going to start, I think, 35th and be 37th by lap 2. I just have no interest in it. All right, so Denny Hamlin starting in 4th, average finish of 10.5. I did not get a chance to get this already started. Maybe in the future, my AI will be able to take care of that for me. So, all right, if everything's worked out here, we have an average of about 30 laps of fast laps. So this is coming from those 5 races that we're looking at and the last 5 trend races, which would be not including Talladega because it's super speedway, but Kansas, Martinsville, Bristol, Darlington, and Vegas, if I remember correctly. But it's those last 5. So it's non-super speedways is what the trend line is. If we're at a super speedway, it would be nothing but super speedways. Once we go to a road course, which we do next week for Watkins Glen, it'll be nothing but road courses. So either way. So 30 fast laps about on average. He's 70, 80 laps led. So we'll kind of go on the lower end and say 60. Well, with the 10th place finish, that's 56.5. Not quite where we need to be for optimal. But if he goes and finishes 5th, he's there. He could actually fall back to 8th, and he's still there. So on the trend line, he has a best finish of 1st and no worse than 11th over the last 5 non-super speedway ovals. That's pretty good. So I would definitely say Denny Hamlin is absolutely somebody who I am going to leave as one of my core top drivers. And that core, actually, you can actually take the core 15 drivers, and then you kind of want to break it into probably 4 drivers who are your dominator potential core. And then your other 11 drivers will be your place differentials. And that's where your sub core kind of comes into play. You have to fill in some of the holes. So Denny Hamlin absolutely will be one of my core drivers. Tyler Reddick, 10,700 on DraftKings this week. He is starting from the 8th position. He practiced 11th in single lap, 9th in 10 lap consecutive average, 35 total laps at practice. And the 5 races we're comparing to, he does have the 1 win, which was at Kansas a couple weeks ago. 2 top 5, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s, a 12.8 average finish, and a 7.6 average running position. Here at Texas, Tyler Reddick does have 1 win, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and 5 top 20s, and 11 place average finish. Pretty good, pretty consistent. And with the year that he is having, and the 2311 is having, and the Toyotas are having, definitely somebody we probably will need to think about. And like I said, he was fairly fast in practice and very consistent on the long run. Definitely somebody I will be keeping an eye on. Now, do I think he ends up potentially being an early dominator? No, probably not. Do I think sometime from stage 2 on, which still encompasses well over 2/3 of the race, is Tyler Reddick somebody that potentially could be a dominator? Yeah, I think so. There's no real indication saying that he won't. Very similar to Denny Hamlin in the last 5 non-super speedway ovals. His best finish is first. His worst is 15th. So Denny Hamlin's worst is 11th. Tyler Reddick's is 15th. He's starting in 8th. He's got a little bit, really not much room for place differential, but it won't be a PD play by any means. But he can, always improve a little bit, get a few points there from place differential. And if we look at his fast laps and average laps led are not near what Denny Hamlin's is. So we'll give him like 20 fast laps and 15 laps led. Really doesn't correlate. Usually the laps led is more than your fast laps, but we'll go off the averages up here. So an 8th to 4th, 20 and 15 only gives you 56.75. Now, if he finishes in 3rd, he gets close. If he finishes 2nd or better, it works. Now, hopefully, if he's finishing 2nd or 1st, he's got more laps led and fast laps. I like the Tyler Reddick play. I would probably put Denny Hamlin 1 spot ahead of Tyler Reddick if I'm looking at how do I want to build my lineups. I'm probably looking, somewhere in the 40% range for like a Denny Hamlin and like a 30% range for a Tyler Reddick. Maybe even a 25%. It's not going to be super heavily owned. Right now I think Denny Hamlin probably fits that best. Kyle Larson. Oh yeah, I always forget. Make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button. We do this every Saturday night. As long as the Xfinity race finishes or the O'Reilly race finishes on time at about 9 o'clock. We usually run an hour and a half, 2 hours. I think I probably have to say this is the most thorough breakdown of NASCAR DFS, at least on YouTube out there. I don't know anybody else that does a 2-hour breakdown for lineups and drivers. I don't just skip around. I don't just give one-offs on certain drivers. I give you actually reasons behind why I like certain drivers, why I don't like certain drivers. I give you the base data and facts, and if I have a gut feeling about something, I typically will say, hey, this is just a gut feeling. I think Kyle Larson is going to win this race. I don't know if that really is true, but if I have a gut feeling about something, I tell you it's a gut. It's not a data point. So, and a lot of people will not give you that information. I watched, I'm not going to call any channel out from last week, but I don't typically watch anybody else's channels, but I literally was like, YouTube suggested it to me. I was like, oh, actually they do a really good job with football and baseball and other sports. I'll watch it. First off, they were half the people starting in the top 5 for Talladega. I'm like, all right, tell me you don't know anything about doing NASCAR DFS. And they were also doing it like they were going to build lineups without qualifying. The qualifying had not been rained out yet. They literally did it Saturday morning at like 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, they hadn't canceled qualifying. They didn't have any starting spots. They had no place differential for any of these guys. And they were like, oh, yeah, you absolutely have to take this person. And I was like, that driver's starting third or something. I was like, what? I'm like, okay. Glad you're out there telling all those people to do that. Means I can actually win some money. So, yeah. I'll actually tell you it's a gut feeling I have about something. Kyle Larson's got a gut feeling. He's won the last two O'Reilly races. He finished fourth here last year in Texas. He's starting from 11th. And he's good at mile and a halves. But let's look at everything else. 10,500. His practice speeds were 9th and 3rd on longer run. 29 total laps of practice. He was in Group 1, which is the faster of the two groups, but still either way. He averages 60.2 Draftkings average for those 5 races, 13th place average finish, and a 6.5 average running position. Look at his practice speeds. Kyle Larson is in the yellow. He is at or below the average pretty much for the majority of his practice. He was not as fast as Tyler Reddick or William Byron over the same time in practice. That was a little bit concerning that William Byron, who is his teammate, has a little bit better setup, and Tyler Reddick was actually faster than the three those two. So I still think the Chevys are going through a little bit of a learning curve with this new body style, and Hendrick is still kind of having a little bit of a struggle with it. I think they're getting better each week. I just don't know if they're quite where I'm comfortable going. Absolutely, Kyle Larson's the guy this week. He's going to go out and lead 150 laps. I just don't think that's where we're at with this new Chevy body or with Hendrick at this point. Now, do I think Kyle Larson probably should be somebody that could be easily a top 5 finisher? Absolutely. Now, Kyle Larson also has a tendency to get himself in some trouble. Well, when we've got races for the last 3 here that have been an average of like 14 cautions per race, that's a little bit of the concerning part. So, let's put him on the calculator here. He's starting in 11th, so I guess he could be considered a place differential if we think he's going to make it to first. But his average fast laps are about 30. Laps led are about 80. So we'll just go 30. Won't give him quite 80. We'll give him 60. If he goes from 11th to first, lead 60 laps, it's 83 points. Easily obtainable. So let's say he does lead some laps in this race, but he doesn't win. But he finishes, he could finish almost where he starts and make the 60 point, this needs to be 60, make the 60 point deal work. As long as he leads 60 and has 30 fast laps, it works. Now, really, realistically, what we're looking for 10,500 is we're looking for at least a top 10 finish. So, but that still definitely makes it work. So I still think Denny Hamlin at this point is probably my best option for a dominator. There are more that we will get to, but right now, King of the Heap, I like Denny Hamlin right now is my favorite. Kyle Larson would probably be second, and Tyler Reddick would be third. I think realistically, Tyler Reddick probably ends up being still in my core 15, but probably like 13th, 14th, 15th driver in that grouping. Kyle Larson, I'm not fully sold on. Kyle Larson's my driver. I'm just not fully sold on him going out and getting a ton of Dominator points and potentially win the race. He's easily capable of it. I just don't feel comfortable with it because the stat lines don't tell me I should be comfortable with it. So until the stat lines start to change a little bit and they're having better practice sessions and those types of things, I'm just going to probably end up, I'll probably have, if I'm going to have 25% Tyler Reddick, I'm probably going to have about 30% Kyle Larson. So, Ryan Blaney, 10,200. Starting in 31st. Is this another one of those races that we go, okay, we know this is a place differential race. Is this like a red herring? Does it end up being like, oh, this is a shoe-in? You definitely put Ryan Blaney in. It's a place differential. It's Ryan Blaney. Well, let's look at the data points here. Practice speeds was 25th. Long run speed was a little bit better in 11th. Actually, his long run speed actually looked pretty good on the chart. We'll get to that in a moment. 33 total laps. Okay. Not real fast in practice. Does not have a win at the 5 races we're comparing to. Has never won at Texas before. In fact, in the 5 races we're comparing to, he's only got 1 top 5, which is equivalent to 1 top 10. Only 2 of the 5 races he's finished top 20. It's a 20.8 average finish. He did finish in 3rd, which was his best finish last year here at Texas. There are signs here that this may be a red herring starting in 31st. We've seen this happen a couple times this year with Joe Logano, with Ryan Blaney, with the Fords, where they just aren't fast. And I don't know if this has actually been solved yet. I mean, honestly, his practice speeds are not miserable. They're about average. So the average, we have 38 drivers, the average would be 19th. Well, 31st to 19th may be okay if you are a Ty Dillon, but a Ryan Blaney, that may or may not work. So, with that being said, starting in 31st, absolutely, all day long, if you just blindfolded it and went, you take Ryan Blaney starting in 31st. It's an easy place differential play. You would think. All right, so if he gets to his average finish, and this is the average finish of the trend line, and the 5 races that we're comparing to is 15th. And he's got, this average laps led and fast laps are on the five races we're comparing to, the 3 Texas, 2 in the Vegas and Kansas race. He only averages 4.8 laps led. This is the last 5 non-super speedway races. That includes Martinsville, that includes Bristol. But it's the trend line. So let's give him 15 laps led and 15 fast laps. Well, 31st to 15th only gets you 54 points. Well, you need to get to at least 60 at 10,200. I'm not fully sold that Ryan Blaney even gets to 15th. I mean, if his practice speeds are about 19th, and what's been the other Achilles heel for Ryan Blaney this year? Pit stops. Well, if we're having 12 cautions in a race, you're coming to pit road a lot. And if your pit crew is losing you, before they were losing him 10 spots a race, or 10 spots every time they pitted. Yes, they've made some changes. Talladega, they weren't around long enough to really see if they were going to lose some spots or not on pit road. But that's still a worry. And all they did was change the Jackman. They didn't change the whole team. I don't know if the Jackman ends up being the end-all, end-all on why your pit stops are slow. So, a little bit of buyer beware. Am I going to have Ryan Blaney? Absolutely. I'm probably putting him more like a Tyler Reddick type of play, though. I don't know if I want to have honestly, I think the field probably has Ryan Blaney at 40-45%. I think he's probably one of the top 5 highest owned drivers this week. I'm probably going to be closer to 11th, 12th, 13th on my ownership for Ryan Blaney, which probably puts him, 20-25% ownership. So I'm calling it a red herring. I could be completely wrong on that, but slight gut feeling and there's a lot of data to back that gut feeling up. So, Christopher Bell, $10,000, starting in 7th. He's actually pretty darn good at Texas. 10.8 average finish. What was Denny Hamlin? I think Denny Hamlin was the highest. 15.6, 12.8, 13. What? Tyler Reddick at 12.8. Yeah, so Christopher Bell so far has the best average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to. No wins at those 5 races or at Texas, but 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 5 top 20s. I mean, starting in 7th, so we definitely need to be finishing in the top 10, probably top 5. His Draftkings average is not great. So, okay. I see what Christopher Bell's got going on here. And if we look, he's in the yellow. His short run speed is a little bit on the slower end. Long run speed is about there with William Byron, not quite as good as Tyler Reddick, and starting in the 7th spot. Daniel says, you're about to get to him, but Byron is my field pick for the win. Just think it's his time to have things click and roll off. Yeah, we're gonna get to Byron in a moment, and I'll cover that. He's actually next in line, so I'll get to him. Let's finish up with Christopher Bell here. Practice speeds were okay. I didn't really have an issue or problem with them. Qualifying, he's qualified in the top 10. But looking at the last 4 optimal lineups, we only have 1 or 2 drivers make the optimal lineup from the top 10. And if we're looking at needing 60 points starting in 7th, there's only so many laps that can be led within this group. If we think Chris Bell, I mean, his average finish for between the two is either 10.8 or 13.4. So saying you're going to finish in 5th is actually giving a lot, but it really should be about 11th on average. And even on his speeds, they weren't top 10, top 5 speeds. They were consistent. They were good. They also have shown that they don't make the best decisions when it comes to strategy. But fast laps, he's averaging 10, 13, about 12 on the average, and average laps led of about 15. Well, start 11th, start 7th, finish 11th, it's 37.15. I mean, the question is, and I've always said this every week, is you have to build the storyline. And the storyline here is lots of cautions, but who potentially can get up front, stay up front, miss all of the issues and problems, and have a good day. I don't know if I'm completely sold with Christopher Bell doing that. So even if Christopher Bell goes and finishes in 1st, it's just barely 60 points if he doesn't lead a whole lot of laps or doesn't have a whole lot of fast laps. It's kind of a tough one to say. I've also seen guys like Christopher Bell, William Byron, the next one we're about ready to get to, Kyle Larson, all these guys absolutely have the potential to go out and just stink this race up tomorrow. Lead 200 of the 267 laps, and nobody can touch them. I don't think it's going to be the case. It's going to be 86 degrees. It's going to be a beautiful day for a race, but the track's going to heat up. Well, a hot track at Texas gets extremely slick. And that's why we see lots of cautions at Texas. But with that being said, I mean, I think it's much more of a start and finish kind of where you started, about 7th. Well, that's 46.15 points. Yeah, I think Christopher Bell probably, I'm putting a lot of people in this little small group. I don't I think it falls much more into that 10th to 15th range of people that I'm looking at using, which really honestly, I think probably puts it about 20% ownership. Right now, still Denny Hamlin's my favorite to probably dominate early and have the most dominator points and get a top 5 or top 3 finish. William Byron, 9,700. Daniel Pope's gut check winner of the week. Thinks William Byron's going to pull it out this time around here at Texas. Hey, good possibility. He does pretty well here. His practice speeds were top of the chart. First in single lap, first in 10 lap consecutive average, 34 total laps of practice. Remember, he was in Group 1. Group 1 is the faster group. It's the cleanest track. It's the fastest. Still, William Byron showing pretty good speed. And if we look at his stats over the last 5 races that we're comparing to, the 3 Texas, Kansas, and Vegas, he's got 1 win, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s. Pretty darn good. With a 5.4 average finish. Absolutely, so far, the best average finish out there. The problem is recent trend lines are not wonderful for Hendrick or William Byron. But let's look at his practice speeds. He is one of our comparisons. He is in this blue. He had that 1 hiccup lap, but he is absolutely right there with Tyler Reddick, if not beating him on a few laps, especially early on. With that being said, the trend line's not awful for William Byron either. He's just hovered in this top 10, almost top 5 spot. His best finish in the trend line is 3rd, worst is 30th. For the 5 tracks that we're comparing to, it's 1st and 13th is his worst finishing spot. But he doesn't lead a bunch of laps, doesn't have a whole lot of fast laps. And if you're starting 15th, we're going to need some of that. Daniel Pope says, Brad is a core play for me. Come on, Gimpy. Yeah, we'll get to Brad here in just a few minutes. I think that's probably a pretty good choice. I do have one Ford driver I will be targeting this week as a potential dominator, even. I really liked what I saw, practice, qualifying, all of the things. I'm sure you're probably able to figure out at this point who I'm talking about. But we're still talking about William Byron here. Starting in 15th. Get to your average finish of 5th. It's actually 8th, but here, it's of the 5 tracks we're compared to, it's 5th. And don't do much of anything of also what you're doing. 10 and 10. 10 laps led, 10 fast laps. The problem is it's still only 56 points. We need to get to 60. So we're going to need a little bit better than 5th. Can you get to 3rd and get me that 60 points? Maybe. Probably a pretty good shot. I think right now, if I'm going through, if my memory's serving me right, I'm probably looking at Denny. I'm probably looking at William Byron. And now Kyle Larson. And then we drop down to Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney. Honestly, I'm putting really Ryan Blaney probably as a sub-core play, and Tyler Reddick. So William Byron's probably my number 2 at this point. Denny Hamlin's still my number 1. All right, Chase Elliott, starting right next to William Byron, $9,500. Another really good average finish for Chase Elliott. William Byron was at what, 5.4, 5.6, 5.4. Denny Hamlin's Chase Elliott's got the second best at a 7.6. Average running position of 10.7. In those 5 races, he does have the 1 win where he got it here in 2024. Double overtime restart. 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 5 top 20s, very similar to William Byron. This track is typically known to be a Hendrick style track. The Hendrick cars always seem to do really well here, along with the Toyotas. And guess what the current trend line at mile and a half is? Toyotas and the Hendrick guys. He finished 16th here in this race last year. All right, so we've got all that. He was 16th and single lap, 17th and 10 lap consecutive average. And he was in Group 2, which would potentially be the slower of the two groups. Not by much, but a little bit. And once again, I'm not overly worried with the one spike. If we'd seen a lot, I'd be worried, but I'm not that worried. So we'll kind of go a little bit past here. Daniel says, my leftish field SC lineup. I don't know what SC is, but Hamlin, Byron, Keselowski, Logano, Heim, and Herbst. Okay, we need to get to the rest of them. Herbst, maybe. Single entry. Okay. Yeah. For a single entry needs to be kind of a blend of a GPP and a cash play, because you're looking at a much smaller field. Do you want to go more of a safety play where your large GPPs, you can go with a Rally Herbst? Rally Herbst is, in my opinion, much more of a sleeper long shot type of pick. I do like the Heim call, though. I know how much I love Logano. I mean, at these mile and a halves, I don't like him to begin with anyways, but at these mile and a halves, I really don't like him. I just don't like him as a driver. But I played, I think he's my second highest driver last week. So I will still play drivers I don't like. All right, so Chase Elliott, after we got into this little hiccup one, he is right there on point with Reddick and with William Byron. Looks very good, very consistent, well above average, starting in 14th. Easily could have a top 10 play. And Chase Elliott is just methodical, if nothing else. We look at the averages, he doesn't average a whole lot of any of it. 6.8 and 11.2. So we're looking at about an average of about an 8. And 8 and 19 will give him 13. All right, so starting in 14th, we need to get better than 10th. We need to get up to 6. Nope. Top 5 to it? Nope. We're going to need to at least get to 3rd, probably? Nope. Top 2? Yep. Top 2, if he doesn't go out and do much of any domination, just has a good, solid finish. I don't mind the Chase Elliott play. Definitely is not going to be one of my top 6 plays. Right now, still, for the expensive guys, it's honestly probably Denny Hamlin, William Byron, and Kyle Larson. I don't mind putting Chase Elliott. He's probably going to be like somewhere between 10 and 15. The problem is, probably actually maybe even go below that. All right. Joe Logano, $9,200, starting in 23rd. Practice was actually not bad for Joey's standards for a mile and a half. He did win here last year. He got first. Beyond that, it's not been great at mile and a halves. 2 top 20s beyond that one win for the 5 races we're comparing to, a 15.6 average finish. Not quite as bad as his teammate, Ryan Blaney. Starting 23rd, doesn't have quite as many place differential spots to go. And starting 23rd, I don't go with the premonition that I think he's going to go and dominate this field. So how far up is he going to need to get to be there? His practice speeds were fine on the short run and not very good on the long run. It is one hiccup here, not that concerning, but it does go a fair amount above the average line, which would be kind of where he's starting. Well, kind of where he's starting has me concerned later in the run that he's not going to be able, if he does make up a couple spots, he's just going to end up losing those couple of spots later. I honestly think it's probably, he's might get to his average, which is about 15th. But starting in 23rd, that's not going to be enough at $9,200 to do anything. So he's probably going to be, if anything, he's going to be in my sub-core. But I think all of a sudden, Joe Logano is going to be a 20-25% owned driver, I'm probably going to be closer to the 10 to 15%, if that. I think it's a little bit of a red herring. I don't like the Fords outside of the RFK guys. And I really only like one RFK driver. I'm okay on the second RFK, and I'm really out on the third. But we'll get to them momentarily. But 15th is the average finish, or 16.6. We'll leave it at 15th. But, I mean, almost no laps led, very few fast laps. So 3 and 1, 37.6. Yeah, I mean, Joey's going to end up being in my sub core, if that. Yeah, Chase Briscoe, $9,000, starting in the 5th position. Chase has slowly been having a much better rebound after the first 5 races where he was just about couldn't even get out of his own way. But the speed has started to show back up again. And for the 5 races we're comparing to, 2 of those were 2 races from this year, Kansas and Vegas. And the 5 races at Texas, he's got 4 top 10s at those 5 races. 10.8 average finish. So the average finish is a little bit lower than Elliott and Byron, but still very respectable 10.8. That's very similar to a Denny Hamlin. And Briscoe loves to get up there and go and lead laps. So I still think Denny Hamlin is probably my top driver for leading laps, but Chase Briscoe is very close to being my second pick for having some Dominator laps. Kyle Busch is going to spin Gibbs for rocking his old Interstate paint scheme, probably. I mean, when was the last time Kyle Busch either didn't spin in a race or spin someone else out in a race? I don't think I can remember. I don't know if he actually spun last week at Talladega in the big one or not. But it's he is definitely either spun or spun somebody else in most races. Chase Briscoe's laps, they're not as good as Byron's and Reddick's, and probably honestly not as good as Denny's. So that has me a little bit on the concerned side of things. So Jana says, so in a single entry, swap Cindric for Logano and then move off of Herbst to whom? I don't know how much money you have left over. So that would be, I would probably say Ty Dillon. That would be my quick knee jerk without looking and going down to Ty Dillon, but my quick knee jerk down at the bottom of the barrel, I would probably swap to Ty Dillon. Now, Herbst is, in the last 3 or 4 races, has had probably a little bit better of an average than Ty Dillon, but Ty Dillon here at Texas, for some reason, just seems to be really good. And guys who really like a certain track typically continue to do fairly well. And I would have to say, I think almost Ty Dillon, this might be Ty Dillon's best track. All right, we just got sidetracked. Now I have to look. Let's see. Ty Dillon. Go to the old racing reference info. We'll go to Ty Dillon. There's a real easy way to see who. So Ty Dillon, we go results by track for the Cup Series and an average finish. 19th for Bristol Dirt. Okay, let's scout. 19.8 for Daytona. 19th for Indy. Talladega 16.6 average finish. Where's Fort Worth? Fort Worth 19.8. I mean, non-super speedway, like I said, this is probably one of his best tracks. The ones that have that beat are Bristol Dirt, which we don't do anymore. He's tied with Daytona. Daytona Road Course we don't do anymore. Indy. So between Texas and Indy, this is Ty Dillon's best track, other than Talladega, which is super speedway. But Yeah, so top 3 for Ty Dillon. $0 left over if I swapped out Byron to Elliott and had enough for Ryan Preece. Why would you take Byron out and go with Elliott? I like the Byron call. Or are you looking? Did you need to save money to get the Preece? I see what you're doing there. Okay. The problem is Preece is my third least favorite for this style track out of the RFK guys. Personal opinion. And I'll show you the stats on it, but we'll get to that momentarily. So for Chase Briscoe, I have my concerns. Just gut level feeling. I had $200 or minus $200. Okay, you convinced me on Ty Dillon. I'm just trying to show you the stats. Not trying to change your mind. I like to give the stats. These practice speeds have me slightly concerned about Briscoe starting in 5th. So yeah, I still think it's a 20-25% ownership range for Briscoe. The problem is if I'm going to start Denny Hamlin, I'm probably not going to start Chase Briscoe. So pick the driver that's starting in the top 10 that you think is going to go dominate for your build, and then build back from there. So I have max of 2 drivers that are starting in the top 10. Realistically, most of my lineups are probably going to be 1 driver starting in the top 10. Ty Gibbs starting in 10th, $8,700. Average finish of 16.6. And the 5 races we're comparing to, he's got 1 top 5, 2 top 10s. Here at Texas, he's never finished in the top 10. And twice in the top 20. And here's what he was 23rd in single lap, 31st in 10 lap consecutive average. So his lap times were not great in practice. Not awful, but not great. Until you look at the chart. And this is the chart that makes me worry. One's okay. This one that goes, it goes way up here. We're talking like 33-second lap time. And then he does it again 6 laps later at almost 31.5 seconds. That is a concern. Maybe he controls it a little bit better. I think he's got a little bit of a winner's hangover from Bristol. Just my honest opinion. So I'm probably going to be a fade on Ty Gibbs. Like I said, his average finish, his current average finish is 10.8 because we're taking in the trend line, which his trend line's been really good for non-super speedways. But Texas has not been very good for Ty Gibbs. And for him to get to, it's probably going to need to be at least 55 points. You can make a case maybe for a 50 point to be there. But starting in 10th, he has average fast laps of, what is that, about 8? Maybe 9? And laps led of 4? That's being generous. Even finishing in 5th, it's a 49.05. And like I said, I think you could probably get in there at 55 points. But to get to 55 points, he's going to have to finish top 2, first or second. I just don't see that with practice speeds in history. So I'm probably going to be a fade on Ty Gibbs. Are Blaney and Bubba both red herrings? Now that I went to Ty Dillon, I have a ton of salary for my last spot. Locked in Kez, Ty Dillon, Byron, and Hamlin. I think Blaney is potentially a red herring. Bubba? No, I think Bubba's going to be fine. Bubba does much better at these style tracks than Blaney does. He's coming up in two drivers. So we'll get through our past winner, Carson Hocevar, and the winner from the truck race on Friday night, and the winner for the pole this week. Boy, this guy's just winning everything right now. And there is something to be said about momentum. But guess who started on the pole at the Texas race last year? Carson Hocevar. Guess where he finished? 24th. Not great. And if we look at the 5.5 mile races, now he did win the trucks here at Texas twice. That was his second win, actually. But in the Cup Series, no win or no top fives, one top 10, three top 20s for the 5 races we're comparing to. The only top 10 came here at Texas, but he's starting in first. Average finish 17th. Practice speeds were not bad. Not quite as good as Tyler Reddick's. And that could make a case that, he's better than average, but he's starting from the pole. I think he leads probably maybe the first 30 laps. Because I think he's got the speed to get out there and get out front. And I think he leads to either the first caution, as long as it's not within the first 10 laps. Because then I think he still holds on to the top spot even after that. But I think it's after the first competitive pit stop, the lap 30, lap 35, lap 40 pit stop, where I think Carson ends up losing it. It gets back in dirty air, very similar to what happened to Justin Allgaier today, and just could never get back up. Carson will finish top 10, in my opinion. Solid, but I'll have 0. It's just too hard starting from the pole. Unless you're going to go out and lead 60 laps and have 20 to 30 fast laps, it's just hard. Average finish of 15.1. Well, we know a negative place differential is just pretty much the death of the pole setter. So we'll leave him in first. And so let's say he does go lead that first 40 laps and has 20 fast laps for the entire race. That's 64 points. All right. So starting first, finishing first, have 40 laps led, and have 20 fast laps. It's doable. Like I said, he's on a heater right now. The trend lines are in his momentum. He's doing everything right. I see the argument for leaving him in there. I can make a case for him to do that. It's just really tough because if you have one slight issue and you fall to 5th, you're now 54 points. You're below the optimal line. You fall to 10th, and you're barely even in the top 15 kind of conversation anymore. Fall the 16th or 15th, which is your average, you're now outside the top 15 with a 15th place finish, which is not an awful finish. So, yeah, I'm right there with you, Daniel. I'm probably going to be a pretty heavy fade on Carson. I will probably put together 1 or 2 lineups with him in it, just as a Hail Mary type of situation of like, okay, let's say Carson goes out and leads 200 of the 267 laps and just absolutely annihilates the field, which it's possible, very unlikely, but possible. And then I pair him up with Bubba Wallace, starting in 37th, before he wrecked his car. And that wreck was a couple things. And Bubba didn't say it, but because this past week I've been doing a fair amount of iRacing, and I've been in Texas, and there's always been a bump in turns between 1 and 2. And it's actually almost to be honest, it's almost the trigger of when to get back onto the gas while you're in turn 1, is you go over the bump, and then you slowly bring the acceleration back up. If you do it beforehand, and you hit the bump, the rear gets light, and you're full throttle, and it spins you out. And that's exactly what happened to Bubba Wallace. He had hot tires. Tires were worn. He won't do that. Well, more likely won't do it again in the race. And he's starting pretty much shotgun on the field. Austin Dillon's starting 38th. but I like the Bubba Wallace call way more. The problem is Bubba Wallace is probably going to be top 3 ownership. It's pretty much a free square, check it and just go and don't worry about it. Because if it works out, you're with the rest of the field. If it fails, you're with the rest of the field. But I won't have any more than 50% ownership on him. I've never been able to talk myself into going much over 55% ownership for any driver. I just like to cover my bases too much, and I just don't trust any one driver at a particular style track. So, but Bubba Wallace starting in 37th, average finish of 11.4 at the 5 races we're looking at. 4 of those 5 races he's finished top 10. Here at Texas, he's got 1 top 5, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s. So the stats at Texas aren't quite as good as they are with Kansas and Vegas put into that, but they're not awful either, especially when you're starting 37th. So it's probably somewhere in about a 15th place average finish. Like I said, his practice speeds were not that great to start with, but the sheer horsepower and ability for the 2311. I mean, I guess I could see the argument for a red herring, but at some point we run out of the red herrings. And I just have more confidence in 2311, the Toyotas, and Bubba Wallace at 1.5 miles than I do anything else. So, 37th, what do you got to do to get to 55 or 60 points? Not going to be a whole lot. 37th, get to the average of 15th, it's definitely going to put him there. Let's say we'll give him the token 1 lap led, which I don't think happens, but we give everybody the token. And you have 5 fast laps, maybe 4 fast laps. 15th only gets you to 52 points. Well, we talked about this. You need to be at least 55 points or more. So potentially a little bit of a red herring. I see the argument there. Probably 11th place would easily get him there. Doesn't have to get a top 10. But I think he can work his way up to a top 15. And like I said, 13th would probably still keep him over the 55 mark. Yeah, 56. 14th gets him to 54. So have 6 fast laps, and you're right at the 55 spot. So I don't mind the Bubba Wallace call. I think they have that in them. So, yeah, I like the Bubba Wallace. I like it much more than I like the Ryan Blaney or the Austin Dillon, but I think Austin Dillon's also probably in play. Chris Buescher, 8,100. Probably the only Ford in the field I like, to be bluntly honest. $8,100 starting in 3rd. He's got an average finish of 12.6 for the 5 races we're comparing to. No top 5s, but 2 top 10s. Starting in 3rd. And I like him for as a potential win, or if I'm betting the top manufacturer driver, I like Chris Buescher as the top manufacturer driver for Fords. Yeah, for Toyota, it's a toss-up, but it's probably Denny Hamlin. And probably in the Chevys, probably William Byron. Probably one of the Hendrick cars. But Chris Buescher is probably my favorite for top Ford. Average finish of 12.6. He's starting in 3rd, though. His practice speeds were good. They were not bad. I could make the argument my 2 Ford drivers would probably be Austin Cindric or Chris Buescher. I just like the speed out of the RFK cars better than I like the speed out of the Penske's this week. Yeah, his practice speeds were good. Well above average, or well below average, which is the good thing. You want to be below the average. Faster than the average. Trying to figure out how that sounds. Yeah, the average here is 12.6. Texas, he's definitely had a struggle. He's never finished top 10. That's, if I'm being honest, that makes me go, oh, I'm concerned about that. but almost half the time he's finishing top 20. But the other thing is, the other half, he's not finishing in the top 20 with a 22nd place average finish. Been a little bit of a struggle here. Starting third, I guess I'm talking myself out of Chris Buescher at this point. He's just been super consistent so far this year. Yeah, I'm probably going to talk myself out of this by putting him on the calculator. I mean, let's say he starts in third, finishes in third. And let's say he's able to lead 30 laps, have 10 fast laps. It's 53 points. It's right on that edge. I'll probably have a little bit of ownership, but it's probably honestly going to be out of my core 15. I think I talked myself out of it. I still think, and that's how bad I think the Fords are. But I also don't love the place differential in the wrong direction for Chris Buescher. Brad Keselowski, yes, $8,000 starting in 25th. The GIMP was not very fast in practice, though. 30th in a single lap, 34th in 10 lap consecutive average, 23 total laps. But if we look at the averages, 4 top 10s out of the 5 races we're comparing to with a 10.6 average finish. I mean, that's right up there with Denny Hamlin type speed or consistency. And that's with a 28th place finish here last year. That's his one out of those 5 that was not in the top 20. 30 total starts here at Texas. Does not have a win. I don't necessarily need Brad Keselowski to go get a win. Maybe I'll probably have more ownership in Brad than I will with Chris Buescher. I think Chris Buescher may end up having a better finish, but as you can see, you almost need Chris Buescher to go win for him to be in play. He always seems to qualify too high. You talking about Chris Buescher? Yeah. I think that's probably going to be the issue on why I fade him. But the Brad K call, I definitely probably like a lot. Great average finish, 10.6 here, 15.5 over 30 races at Texas. If we look at his practice speeds, I mean, they were not great, but they're right at average. So it's a 19th. So maybe you miss a few of the wrecks and you can get yourself up to, let's say, 15th for $8,000. Probably looking at least needing 50 points at $8,000. So 25th. Get to the average actually, once you take into the current trend line, is a 9.8. But we'll say 12th. And probably don't go lead a whole lot of laps. I mean, they do typically run long, so if we do end up having a really long green flag run, Brad Keselowski's potentially going to stay out. So we'll instead of the 1, we'll give him 4. And he doesn't have a whole lot of fast laps, so we'll stay with the 5. That's 47.25. So he's going to need to get closer to a top 10. Yeah, 10th would get him to 52 points. 50 being the optimal. So that's Daniel Pope says, my single entry on FanDuel, I believe, emphasizing more finishing and only 5 drivers, Hamlin, Byron, Bubba, Keselowski, Heim. Don't they do something with it emphasizes finishing more than it does fast laps and laps led, right? I played FanDuel like 10 years ago. I can't remember what it is. I just spend too much time and energy on Draftkings right now that I can't. 0.5 for place differential. Okay, so it's half of what it is. Is the point total for finishing spots the same? And don't they do something with stage breaks or something? Or am I just imagining that? Anyway, I like the Brad Keselowski call. He'll absolutely be in my top 15, probably top 10 core drivers. I think this is a good play. And like I said, I don't mind the RFK speed out of them for the Fords. The rest of the Fords, I don't like at all. Ross Chastain next in line, $7,800, starting in 16th. I mean, prior to Talladega, they have just absolutely not been great on speed. Practice was much better for all of the Trackhouse cars. So maybe sometime between Kansas during the Talladega breaks, you don't really have to go worry about that. Maybe the engineers went back to the drawing board and figured out what they were doing wrong with their builds. But the practice speeds were much better than I had seen in the past, including Zillage. Sent you a picture of the scoring on my email. All right, there it is. New message, show. Let's see, laps completed. Oh, you get a 0.1 for every lap completed. Interesting. But you also get an additional 0.1 for, you get 0.5 or 0.1 for a lap completed, 0.1 for laps led, 0.5 for differential, and first is 43rd. I think Draftkings is 45? Yeah, 45 for DraftKings, 42nd for second, 41st for third, 40th, and then it kind of goes down from there. It does skip a couple spots every once in a while. Plus 43 plus, okay. And I guess it just continues to go on down. Okay. All right. It's interesting with the 0.1 per lap completed. So, all right. I like it. But no fast laps. The fast laps are absolutely gone. Yeah, it's probably a little bit easier to build over there, to be honest. Okay. Interesting. So yeah, your Dominator points are nowhere near what they are with DraftKings. Like I said, it takes a little bit of the thought process out. And only 5 spots instead of 6. But the pricing's different too. I don't know. Maybe if I get my AI up and running at full speed and I've got a little bit more time on my hands, I'll start digging into it a little bit. What's the prize pools over there like? Are they as much as DraftKings? And do they have as many players? Maybe that's an advantage not to have so many players. Maybe the pot's not as big, but if you have a easier chance of hitting something. All right. Either way, Ross Chastain, I think Trackhouse is starting to show maybe a little bit of glimmer on speed. He was 14th in single lap, the 36 laps of practice, 10th in the 10 lap consecutive average. His average finishes are not bad. 2 top 5s, 3 top 20s. 9 starts at Texas with 2 and 4 also. He finished second in this race last year, but like I said, the Trackhouse speed has definitely been off. But we look at the practice speeds, they're not William Byron, they're not Tyler Reddick, they're not the Hendricks, they're not the Gibbs, but they haven't been that way all year. So the expectation is a little bit lower, but he's running pretty much just below the average to just above the average at the tail end of the long run. This concerns me as much as the Chase Briscoe play late in the run. They just seem to run out of grip. Or the Joey Logano. And starting in 16th, I don't love the starting spot for Ross here. I'm probably going to be a little bit of a fade with Ross. I'll have a little bit of ownership. It's probably going to be out of the sub. It'll probably be more in the sub core, and not in the core 15. So, yeah, it's going to take almost a top 5 for him to be relevant. And I don't trust the Trackhouse guys at this point on a 1.5 mile track to get a top 5. Yeah, maybe if there's a lot of carnage, we get there, but I just don't. It'll be subcore for me. It's not a complete fade. Ryan Preece, this was one of your guys, Daniel, that you said you were interested in potentially playing. $7,600, starting in 20th. It's kind of, he's definitely not starting up near Busher and not starting quite as far back as the boss man. And his average finishes are not as good as the boss man. So, I mean, he was 24th and 16th in practice, not finished in the top 10 before at Texas or at any of the mile and a halves that we're comparing to. And our practice speeds are at best average. So I think, honestly, you're going to get what you got unless there's a lot of carnage and he's not involved in it. I think he starts 20th and probably finishes close to 20th. Yeah, I mean, for him to start in 20th, he's going to need to get to. He's not going to have any fast laps. He'll have, what, 3 in the token. Yeah, he could probably get by with a 50-point total to have a shot at the optimal lineup, maybe. So top 7 finish for Ryan Preece, maybe. I don't know. Don't love it. Don't hate it. Not going to be my core 15 though. Not with the towels on board. Well, I don't. This was probably from Daytona. I don't change them every week. God, I don't have time for that. Maybe in the future when my AI gets fully up and running and I can have it build these, I can have it go and get the latest and greatest paint schemes. But yeah, usually I just start with one paint scheme and I just go through because this is what I change. I change this. All this other stuff stays the same. So I just replace this each week. So this card stays the same. This changes. And it's actually a copy and paste from my Excel program. Let's see. Alex Bowman, back with the top 5 finish last week. Good for Alex. Good to see him back. Good to see him back doing it all over again. And he's starting in 9th, but his practice speeds were not good. He was 33rd and 35th in practice. Was he really that slow? Doesn't show up on the chart as being that slow. That's wild. That's interesting that it shows up as 33rd and 35th. So now he missed Kansas and Vegas. Actually, he was back for Kansas. Yeah, I think that's right. But it still didn't go super well. Is he back for Kansas? Am I mistaking that? Alex Bowman was back for Kansas. Yeah, he finished 18th. So it was like his second race back. Starting in 9th, average finish of 25.5, 29.1, and practice speeds were here. I'm probably going to be a fade, to be perfectly honest. It's just there's no real room for a change here. I mean, I think he might be able to get, a 5th, but I don't think he goes out and dominates or leads a bunch of laps. So he's going to be at least 5 points shy. I see putting him in 1 or 2 lineups. Austin Cindric, probably the one Penske driver I might be interested in this week, but he's starting in 13th. And do I think Austin Cindric's going to go lead a bunch of laps and have fast laps? No, not really. 21.6 average finish. He, in the 5 races we're comparing to, he's never finished in the top 10, 2 times in the top 20. And out of 4 starts at Texas, he has 1 top 20 with a 23rd place average finish. And his practice speeds were, they were slightly better than average, but he's starting slightly better than average. I don't think he gets much better than a top 10. I think he might be able to go and get a 7th or an 8th. We'll give him a 7th. He, in my opinion, he's right there with Alex Bowman. It's a 40-something point day. So, it's not an all-out fade. It's definitely not in my core 15 group, though. Daniel Suarez, starting outside pole. Daniel's been having a phenomenal year so far this year. Compared to the last 5 years, Daniel Suarez is having probably one of his best years he's had in a long time. Or maybe ever in the Cup Series, to be perfectly honest. I mean, he had a good stretch when he was at Joe Gibbs, but this start so far has been one of the better starts for Daniel. $7,000 starting in second. And we can't fully look at the past history because they were all the Trackhouse, but they were still pretty good. 1 top 5, 3 top 10s, 5 top 20s for the 5 racers we're comparing to, all of them inside the top 20. Problem is he's starting outside pole. I don't think I mean, he was fairly quick in practice, but he was a little inconsistent. I honestly think a Tyler Reddick, a William Byron, a Denny Hamlin, a Kyle Larson are, oops, there it is. Yeah, his practice speeds were really not good for second place. Yeah, I'm going to be a fan of this. And the guys I was just listening, the Joe Gibbs drivers and the Hendrick drivers are going to eat Daniel Suarez's lunch. Let's go. What's up, Kryptonian? Is that how you say it? Kryptonian? I don't know, but I suck at trying to pronounce stuff. I'm surprised I can get Shane Van Gisberging out, but it took me like 100 tries to get that right. Josh Berry, 6,900, and out of the last 5 races that we're comparing to, only 2 of those are Texas and 2 are Kansas and Vegas. And it's the most recent Vegas and Kansas, not last year's Vegas, where he finished first, but that was his only time he's ever really done well. He was 27th and 15th. He had no top 20s anywhere on this page. 31.5 average finish, 34th place average finish. I mean, I think he probably beats his average finish because his practice speeds were, I mean, they're not bad. They're better than average. And he's starting 24th. Maybe just missed a little bit, but like I said, the Fords are not good. Like I said, it's a toss up for best Fords this week are going to be either Cindric or Buescher. I think Brad may end up having a good day with DraftKings, but I think Buescher may actually beat him in finishing position. I mean, I don't mind the Josh Berry speeds on this chart. I just don't like the Josh Berry history at these races. So starting in 24th, I mean, we've got room to run here. I mean, 14th place still doesn't even get it. It's 40.6. 11th might, if you realistically need to be top 8, top 9, with 3 fast laps and 1 lap lead, and the 1 lap lead's just being nice. So it's realistically a top 10 finish for Josh Berry. Maybe. Kyle Busch. I think Kyle Busch ends up having a decent day tomorrow. The problem is he outqualified himself for DraftKings, not for him for the race. But I don't think Kyle Busch goes and wins. I don't think Kyle Busch goes and leads a bunch of laps. I think Kyle Busch is looking to stop the hemorrhaging and the bleeding at this number 8 team and at Richard Childress. The only time they can finish in the top 10 is at a super speedway, and that's not good. So I think right now getting a potential top 10 or even top 15 out of Kyle is going to feel like a win to him. I don't think he goes and buys for a win, or he's going to need to win if he's starting in 6, or have a bunch of laps led or something. I mean, his practice speeds were pretty good, better than average, but he's starting way better than average. He's starting 6. Now, I honestly will say maybe you go and get a top 10, Kyle. Starting in 6, finish 10th. Sure, we'll give you the 5 fast laps. It's 32.5. It's just there's too much of an uphill climb. Corey Heim, 6,700, starting in 17th. This could end up being really sneaky. We have one race, I think it was at either Vegas or Kansas. No, I think it actually was, either Vegas or Kansas. I think it was actually at Kansas 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And he had a 15th place finish. And that's all we really know about Corey Heim, other than he's really good in the trucks. And he's, so far, the times that he's had opportunities to start in a Cup car, he's utilized and made pretty good use of them and had pretty good finishes. Like I said, he finished 15th at Kansas. The problem is he's starting 17th. That if he were starting 27th, I would like this all day long. But starting in 17th, and I think your ceiling is probably 12th. It's 37.15 points. It's not enough. And I think he 34, and honestly, he could probably be in the 45-point range. Just barely inside. I will run probably one or two lineups with Corey Heim in it, but that's probably going to be about it. Austin Dillon went out and ran 3 laps of practice and realized that there was something drastically wrong with the engine and brought it into the garage, and they replaced the entire engine. So Austin Dillon did not qualify, so he gets the last starting spot. Bubba Wallace actually gets one spot ahead of him because Bubba Wallace is actually better in points this year currently than Austin Dillon. So that's why he gets to start one spot better. But I think this is probably we don't really have any speed to go off of because he had a engine issue as soon as he pulled out. So we don't have any real practice speed data. All we can go on is what are the averages. 18.3 here at Texas with 1 win, 4 top 10s. And the 5 races we're comparing to, 15.8, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s. So, okay, go get me an 18th place finish starting in 38th. This is the practice speeds. Start in 38th and go get me what did I say? Get me a 18th? Yeah, 38th to 18th gets me pretty darn close. 45.7. I mean, got to get 45 points. It's there. I like the Austin Dillon play. I think I'm fine with it. Unless we're worried that the backup engine also has a problem, which the way that Richard Childress Racing has been this year, all that is very possible. But at 6,500, I'm going to take shots on it. He's going to be heavily owned. He's going to be 35-40% owned. Right there with Bubba Wallace. Right there with Joe Logano and Brian Blaney. I won't have the latter of the two. Michael McDowell starting in 19th. He was pretty quick in practice, but he was in Group 1. And he's always tends to be kind of quick in practice and then screws it up in qualifying and then screws it up more in the race. He was leading laps in the last 20 laps of last year's Texas race, and without late cautions, he probably would have won this race, but it was all done on strategy. It was not because he was super fast. Look at his practice speeds; they're fine. It's about where he's starting, to be perfectly honest. Starting in 19th, his practice speeds really honestly look like about a 19th place type of finish. I mean, he fired off fast, but he was in Group 1. The track was clean and green and fast. So, I mean, the problem is I think if you go and start at 19th and at best you get up to 13th, 36.7. Yeah, sure, it's in the top 15 potential point total, but I'm probably going to be a fade. Eric Jones, I'm going to start to fly through these. We're at the 2-hour mark. I try to keep these things close to 2 hours, but sometimes I go on little tangents about other stuff. Eric Jones, 6,300, starting in 21st. He was 6th in single lap, 27th in 10 lap. Was in Group 1 because he had the issue at the end of the race last week. He did finish 5th in this race last year. Okay, that's pretty good. 12.3 average finish at Texas, 19.4 when you include Kansas and the most recent races. Practice speeds were okay. I think they're probably about where he's starting. It's a lot like a Michael McDowell. I think that's about what you get. So, I mean, is it an all-out fade? No. Will I have probably somewhere between 10 to 15% of Eric Jones? Yeah, it'll be what I call a smattering of Eric Jones. So if I'm going to run, let's say 80 lineups, I might have somewhere between 8 to 10 lineups of Eric Jones, and I would probably have something like 6 to 8 lineups of Michael McDowell. Connor Zilic starting in 12th. He did not race here last year in the Xfinity Series. Raced today in the O'Reilly Series race for the first time, and was really fast at the beginning of the race, and just melted the tires and did not realize what he was doing, and ended up going a lap down. He learned from that. The problem is the competition's a lot stiffer in this series than it is over there in the O'Reilly series, and I don't think he's going to be able to hold on to 12th. And I still don't. I think Trackhouse is moving in the right direction. I just don't trust it. I think at best he finishes where he starts, and that's not going to be enough. And I think if he does that, it's going to be an absolute win for him. That's 32 points. Just doesn't play. He's starting too far up. He outkicked his coverage, as I like to say. AJ Allmendinger at $6,100. It's the stats here for him are not good. This track has not been AJ Allmendinger's best friend at all. 30th place average finish if we're comparing all of the 5 races. 21.1 for Texas. He finished 36th in this race last year. And his practice speeds were about where he qualified. And this is the kind of stuff that I talk about. It's like, whoops. Okay, I figured it out. I'm going to be about average. And we're starting about average. So if I'm talking about how many I'm going to run, I'll probably run 4 to 6 lineups with AJ Allmendinger in it. It's not it's not an Austin Dillon play. It's not a Bubba Wallace play. So I'll have a smattering of AJ Allmendinger. That's going to be about it. Zane Smith. Hey, Daniel, we got your guy. He's starting 34th. 5,900. His average finish is 12.6 for the 5 races we're comparing to, or a 22.3 average finish for Texas. So Kansas and Vegas are helping him get a little bit better average finish. And if we look at the practice speeds, it just is rough. He never got below average for the entire practice session. Like I said, the front row guys last year that I really, really liked. Now, could be slightly bit of a misleading thought about him starting 34th and him moving his way up. As we look at his practice speeds, they're not good. It's almost like there's something wrong with the car. It should not be this slow for Zane. He's a much better driver than this. But this is across the board at front row. I don't know what their 1.5-mile package is doing. I mean, they're also Fords, so that could be part of the problem. Why RFK is having a much better success rate at these 1.5 miles than the rest of the Fords, it's a little bit of a head scratcher, but they've got to figure something out here. Did anybody else notice that there were no Fords in the O'Reilly race today? 0. Goose egg. First time in like 34 years that there were no Fords in a race. Yeah. Slightly concerning, to be perfectly honest. But at 5,900, how far up does he need to get to? Can it be 15th? Yeah. Can it be 17th? Maybe. That's with 3 fast laps in the token 1 lap lead. His best finish is 14th. Worst is 32nd. Asking for a 17th place finish when your laps look like that, that's an uphill battle. That's tough. I'll have some ownership in Zane, don't get me wrong, but it's probably going to be like 10%. John Hunter Nemechek, 5,800, was in Group 1, so a little bit faster. He was 4th in single lap and then fell off a cliff to 30th for 10-lap coverage. He finished 8th in this race last year, has an average finish of 21.3, or at Texas with an 18.3. So Texas is John Hunter Nemechek's one of John Hunter's better tracks. Let's see what we need to get to for John Hunter to be potential top 15. Can he get to his, what did I say his average was? It's 24 there. When I say 21.3 or 18.3, let's say 20th. John Hunter, 20th. 37.6. Top 15 worthy, but not optimal worthy. He's going to need to get up to 17th, 16th. 16th place or better for John Hunter. His practice speeds look fairly good at the beginning, and then he goes way wonky. This is a concern, say the least. He was fine for 15 laps, and then he gets really wonky here. But I'll have some shots because there's not. Yeah, I don't expect you to. John Hunter maybe beats Austin Dillon, but Austin Dillon has a better average finish here. He's not going to be able to touch Bubba. Bubba's going to blow right by John Hunter. Yeah, I'm probably maybe 5% ownership on John Hunter, if that. Victorious says, how's Spire so fast? Everyone's hyping Hocevar and not realizing that Suarez is pretty much right there with him. Is this the new Chevy body? Well, no, because Hendrick is having issues with it. I think Spire has hit on something, but Spire and Hendrick share information. The Spire cars are using Hendrick motors. Most of the telemetry data, all that stuff is being shared with Spire. Why is Hocevar and Suarez? Suarez is not doing better than Hendrick for the most part. He's doing better than what he was doing in the past. Hocevar, I think, probably is actually really that good of a driver, and just nobody wants to actually realize it. He's inconsistent still, but he probably is that good of a driver, to be perfectly honest. And he's with a decent team who's got a lot of money. Suarez is whooping Trackhouse. Yeah, Trackhouse does not have the support from Hendrick like Spire does. There's a difference there. So that's why Spire's doing better than Trackhouse. I honestly think if Ram does end up showing up in the Cup Series, I think Trackhouse and Colleague go to Dodge. You may even see Front Row go. Just saying. They potentially could pull 3 teams. RFK is also looking strong. Yes. They're looking strong. They're probably the strongest Ford team across the board. But you have to remember, RFK used to be one of the top 3. It wasn't Penske. It was Hendrick, RFK, and Joe Gibbs. Spire has the support because Spire gave Rick a bag. Oh, yeah, they gave him a bag. Trackhouse was first, but Spire had deeper pockets. Yeah, they had really big pockets. And Chili's are the real winners right now. Oh, yeah, Chili's is loving the promotions right now, and they're doing a great job with it. To be perfectly honest, I said at the beginning of this thing, this is great for him, great for the sport. So I will have some John Hunter Nemechek. I'm not expecting a whole lot from it. Noah Gregson starting 28th. We're going to get about what we've always gotten. The front row guys are just not fast. The Fords are not fast. Practice speeds are not good. This was after the red flag or whatever, they had an issue, and he came back out and fired off a little bit better and then fell right off again. So, as much as I want to root for Noah and for front row, it's too difficult right now. I think you're going to finish where you start, and it's going to be lucky to be on the lead lap. for any of the front row guys at this point. 14.7 if he gets to there. If he can make it to 18th, it barely puts him into the top 15. He's going to need to get to 13th. 45.7 would maybe put him there. For a, what did I say? 15th place finish? Yeah. Didn't they start the ride, the Dente with LaJoy? Yes. That was a cross promotion. I think it started off with Suarez. Now, Suarez didn't quite embrace it as much as Hocevar has, but I think you could give Hocevar a ham sandwich and he would make it seem like a really cool thing. Daniel was, I will be real honest. I think LaJoy would be getting better finishes than Noah. Yes. Maybe. You think Noah's going to be replaced this year? Oof. The problem is Noah brings a ton of sponsorship. Noah brings more sponsorship than Zane does. And sponsorship's what keeps your ride. The sponsors love Noah. Fans love Noah. More so than they like Zane. I like Zane. But Noah's got a big personality. Noah's got the same type of personality as Kosovar. And that's going to be a lot. And he's bringing sponsorship dollars. So I don't see Noah going anywhere. And if he went somewhere, he'll get picked up pretty quickly. So, I mean, it's not Noah. It's front row. It's the engineering. It's the dollars. It's all the things. You know, I could see Noah or one of the front row guys going to Spire to take over Michael McDowell's spot. Michael McDowell's getting up there in age. I could also see one of those guys, if Richard Childress doesn't pull somebody up from the O'Reilly series, I could see one of those guys going over there. Noah and Bubba need a sports psychiatrist. Yes. Remember that USA show that? Yes. Unnecessary roughness. I think Noah's a better driver, honestly, than Bubba is. Just hadn't been in the right spots and right situations. He hadn't been able to utilize what needs to happen. I think in the equipment that they're currently in, I think Zane is slightly edges them out. I think it all depends on the track. I don't know. Maybe Noah's just too much of a party animal. Could be it. Ricky needs to come over to Toyota. Yeah. The problem is this is a single car team. And to be honest, they actually do a pretty good job being a single car team. I mean, they're kicking the lemon whatever out of Haas with Cole Custer. Ricky Snouse Jr. starting 22nd. He's got an average finish of 17.6 for the 5 races we're comparing to. Here at Texas, it's a 21. I mean, it's probably his speeds are at or worse than average. So honestly, I think we get what we get out of Ricky. And I don't think moving the needle from 22nd to even 15th is going to be enough. It's 35 points. It's not going to be enough. It puts you barely in the top 15. Todd Gilliland, once again, front row. Practice speeds were 34th and 28th. I'm telling you, the front row cars are just they don't have the engineering. They don't have the horsepower. They're missing a lot of pieces right now. And they're going to need to figure it out. So, worse than average. I mean, this is very similar to what we saw with Zane's practice speeds. They just all unloaded really bad. Can they make up a little bit of spots? Yeah, but I just don't see that really happening at this track. It's going to have to be the only way that the front row guys end up having a really good day is if there's a major attrition between 10th and 25th. and they are able to move up 15 spots above their average, or 10 spots above their average. So go to 23rd, go to 13th. Now, if he gets to 13th, it's 50 points. Same thing happens with Noah and Ricky. 28th to 13th puts him at 45 points. He's got an average finish of 27th. So, 10 spots better would be 17th. So, out of all the front row guys, I probably stay away from Noah more than I do Zane or Todd. But Noah's got an average of 27.5. Zane's 22.6. And Todd is... So, Zane is your choice, and he's starting in the furthest back. If they're able to figure it out, and there's a bunch of attrition. SVG starting in 30th. 31.7 average finish here at Texas. He finished 22nd here last year. Practice speeds actually for Shane were at or better than average until about lap 16. He doesn't fall off a whole lot until about lap 25. And then it just goes way off the deep end. I'm not sure they get much more than a 25 lap run. So that might play into SVG's, as long as he's not the one who spins out 3 times in this race. He's got the spins like Kyle Busch does. But starting in 30th, average finish 28. I'd take a few shots with him, but that's going to be about the limit. Victoria says, if I'm Spire, I ask McDonald to retire and bring up Hemrick. No way. Hemrick's washed up. Or LaJoy, no. To place hold for a year, Hemrick was clean in 24 and was better than LaJoy, although he's been struggling in the trucks. Yeah, the trucks are dominated by like 5 drivers, excluding the guys that show up from the Cup Series. Who's going to be his placeholder? Who are they holding the place for? At Spire. Are you placeholding for some driver in particular? We've got a lot of talent out there. You got Corey Day that's coming up that seems to be really good. You've got who's driving the 19 right now in the O'Reilly series? Young kid, 18. Cruz is really good. But they still have... everybody thought Sam Mayer was going to be the guy to come up to the Cup Series, and it has been nothing but a struggle bus this year for him. So, Raja, Sanchez, or someone else is ready in 28. Raja might be. I can see Raja being a good fit at Spire. He raced the trucks for Spire. So, yeah. In fact, he might be under contract with Spire, to be perfectly honest. And it's just kind of being farmed out to Junior Motorsports and those guys. One of the Gray brothers? Maybe. I think the Gray brothers are okay. But I think they're probably on the same level as a Todd Gilliland, to be honest. Front row should sell one of their charters to RFK for next year. Keep Todd and Zane and Noah can go to Legacy or Spire. Noah would be a good fit over at Legacy. Maybe Spire. I don't know. Yeah. I really need to get back to maybe doing a Tuesday night show where we talk more about that type of stuff than getting off on a tangent when we're supposed to be talking about DraftKings. But because I do like talking that stuff also. Noah to Legacy, learn from the 7-time champ. Yeah. I don't mind that call at all. Because I like Legacy, actually. SVG starting 3rd. We talked about that. Riley Herbst, 18th place starting spot, 17th place average finish. He finished 14th in this race last year. I can see the argument, but I think that's kind of his ceiling, is maybe 14th, maybe 10th. And if we go, his practice speeds, let's look at his practice speeds. Go practice speeds. Are at or worse than average. And 18th and maybe he squeaks out a top 10. Maybe he gets to 10th. Is 10th enough? I don't think it is. 42.7. I mean, it might be a 5,200. Might be, but that's asking a lot. I mean, I see what you're saying about him. I'll take a few shots, but the Ty Dillon I like a lot more. His practice speeds were not great, though. He was 29th and 33rd. Just it, but this is where Ty Dillon does really well. Is he'll take this and he'll just stay on or around the lead lap all day, and the next thing you know, 15 cars have wrecked out or have damage, and he's able to pass them and move up 15 spots. You know, he'll go from 35th to 20th. So, and that's about what his average finish is for here. So we go 35th, and if you go get a 20th place finish, I mean, 19th gets you to 41 points. It's right there. Other than Riley Herbst has to get a 10th, and Ty Dillon has to get a 19th. Cole Custer, let's see, Victoria says, I don't think Day, Cruz, or really anyone is ready right now. Oh, yeah, no. I'm not saying, but you were talking about in 2028, who's going to be ready. And absolutely, Day or Cruz will be ready. Cruz also has a ton of money. Piles of money to put towards it. And Day has a 2-time champion pretty much saying he's the next best thing. So that goes a long way too. I mean, and Kyle might try to help fund him. Cole Custer, 4,900. I honestly see, yeah, never mind. Cole Custer, 4,900, starting 27th. Average finish of about 24th. I think we're just starting slightly too far up for Cole Custer at 4,900. Practice speeds were, I mean, this is what I talk about. This is like the Richter scale. This is all over the board. That makes me really, really nervous, and it's the 41. They're right there with Cody Ware, starting in 29th. I think we're already at Cody Ware's ceiling starting 29th. Practice speeds are not great. I did not even do Fincham. I'm not going to be running him. I'm not going to run Cody, and I'm not running Cole Custer. Not racing the bottom 3. If I can't make it work, I'm just not going to make it work. All right, let's go through this real quick. You like LeVar Scott? I think he could be on people's chart. Oh, absolutely. Did you see his response to Stephen A. and his workout? That dude is freaking jacked. He is huge. Good God. I had no earthly idea that guy was that stacked. He's ripped from one end to the other. It's crazy. Personally, I think the O'Reilly guys are overhyped too much. Of course, if you put them in JGR, JRM cars, they're going to start winning 10 races a season. Yeah. Yeah, and then, I mean, go back to the Denny Hamlin podcast from Actions Detrimental earlier this week. The question got asked is how do you know if like a Cruz or a Corey Day or one of those are actually good? Or I think they were talking about Parker Rexleff and what Parker's been able to do with a very underfunded team. And, he was asking Denny, how do you handicap something like that? Is it, if you put Rexleff in a JGR car or a junior motorsports car, good Lord, did they win even more races? I mean, Parker finished 5th today. He's on a freaking tear with a team that literally, I think, has 10 people on the entire team that are helping build 2 cars. It's insane what he's able to do. I mean, Parker keeps doing what Rexleff keeps doing what he's doing. He's going to end up in a junior motorsports car or a Joe Gibbs car. The problem is I don't know if he's got any funding. But he'll get some sponsorship because he's doing really well. Brendan Poole, I think, gets the most out. Oh, absolutely. And so does Jeremy Clements. Jeremy Clements is quietly having a really, really good year. I think both Clements and Parker Retzlaff are both in positions to make the playoffs at this point. But let's finish up this and get off of here. We're almost at 2.5 hours. Good God. My wife at this point is probably already asleep. Really like Kyle Larson. I think Bubba Wallace easily, unless he gets tied up in something or wrecks himself, but which is always possible. Bubba Wallace, I think, is a great call. Denny Hamlin, I think, still is probably my pick for dominator and early dominator. I think Carson Hocevar does dominate early in this race, but I think he'll fade. And I think he'll come back and still end up with the top 10. But I don't think there's enough there to take him as the pole sitter and have him. He needs to go dominate 100 laps. I haven't seen that out of Hocevar at this point. He's good. He's going to be great. I just don't see him right now for this race to do that. William Byron could have a very good, solid finish, top 3, maybe top 5, maybe get some fast laps and laps led. I think he's in play. Chase Elliott right there with William Byron, absolutely. They both have the best average finish at Texas, so absolutely like both those plays. Brad K, I really like. Ryan Blaney, I think, is the red herring. I think Ross Chastain is starting too far up. Joey Logano, super inconsistent. Just can't trust it. Ryan Preece, I don't think he gets much better than a top 10, in my opinion. And there's nothing telling me otherwise. Corey Heim, that's a dark horse. Who knows? Corey Heim could easily go get a 5th place finish. He could actually even go win this race. It is absolutely possible and not out of the realm of possibilities for Corey Heim to go win this race tomorrow. Don't sleep on it. I think there's a 25% chance that he gets a top 5. He's that good. And he's going to be in a 2311 car next year. I don't know where Riley Herbst is going to go, but Corey Heim's going to be in that car. Either that or they're going to fund a 4th team and just not have it chartered. Victoria says it's hard to tell. In motorsports, Josh Berry was doing similar stuff what Hocevar is doing right now in the first half, late season. Yeah, I see what you're saying. The problem is Hocevar is with Spire, and Spire has way more money and resources than the Wood Brothers. No offense to the Wood Brothers. They make a lot with a single car team, and I know they're kind of the 4th Penske team, but they're still not the 4th Penske team. They're still having to fund a lot of it on their own. So, and Barry has a very unique specialty. It's under the 1.5 miles, high tire wear, tight track. He can perform really well at if he has the car underneath him to do it. If he doesn't, it's a bad day. I like Josh Berry. I think he's a great dude. I sat next to him at a rally Xfinity race in Richmond and shot the stuff with him for half the race. Super, super informative, really cool guy. Joe Logano, no. So Corey Heim, yes. Austin Cindric, I think potentially could easily get a top 10, could easily be the highest finishing position Ford, along with maybe Buescher. Starting up front, potential dominators. I think out of this list, I like Reddick as a potential. Hocevar for an early dominator, probably not late. Christopher Bell could easily have some domination in this race, but may end up screwing it up and fading again. I don't mind the Tyler Reddick play. I don't mind the Christopher Bell play. I don't trust Ty Gibbs here. Looking further back in the field, Austin Dillon. Yep, I like the Austin Dillon play. I'll have a little bit of smattering of Josh Berry. I don't trust the front row guys. It's not that I don't trust the front row guys. I just don't trust front row. But I'm going to end up having them because they have great PD spots. But I'm not sold that those are like the plays to play. The John Hunter's down here, but I'll probably still run some John Hunter. I put John Hunter right there with the front row guys as I'm not expecting a whole lot. If it happens to go, then great. Ty Dillon, out of all of them, is the one that I don't like his practice speeds, but he has this is one of his top 3 best tracks that he runs at. And it's not saying a lot because the average finish is 19th. Time in the 55 for 2311 team. In the 55 car? Is there even a 55 car? Why'd you say 55? Why not just stay with 67? 67. Herbst was great in the Xfinity. He wasn't that good in Xfinity either. Riley Herbst was not that good in Xfinity. The only reason he got where he's at is because mom and dad have a lot of money, a lot of money, and Monster is funding it. You looked up uncharted numbers. Yeah, but the 67's not uncharted. So he could just run the 67 or potentially just run the 35 and tell Riley Herbst, go find somewhere else. What's the significance of the 6? It's a teenage meme thing. 6'7". Go look it up. It's a long story. It's super annoying. But I have a 15-year-old son, so that's where. Just go look it up. I can't. I don't know how to explain it. There is no real meaning to it, other than everybody just laughs at it. Yeah. So I mean, we've got like Noah down here. Ricky, I think, starting where he's going to finish. Kyle, I think, may get a top 10, but I don't think it's going to be enough to be in or around the optimal. Dumb thing, huh? I know that, but it's the reason. But is that the no? He had the car number before that ever happened. We got Mark saying 6'7" before pre-winning a race. Yes, you did. You got to remember, I have a 15-year-old son, and I actually do run the number 67 in my iRacing leagues because of it. Because I thought it was hilarious when it first came out. Now I'm stuck with it, but it's fine. So, all right, 2.5 hours in, we're done. Good luck to everyone. I'm really going to try to have the Discord up and running for next week. Don't hold me to it, but I'm going to put a lot of energy into it. I'm going to put a lot of energy behind my AI to do it. I found a couple of new helpful things that should help lower the cost on that. 45 was his brother's number. 23 was his number. So 67, that would be 68. 23 and 45? 68. Am I not adding that correctly? 23 and 45 are Jordan's numbers. 35 doesn't make sense, but 67 is the meme at least. Yeah. So 6'7". All right, I'm going to stop now. I'm getting tired. I'm going to bed. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe button. Next Saturday, Watkins Glen. So we should be on at 9 o'clock without pretty much any problems. Unless Denny comes to 2311 and runs it, but he's not going to. Denny has a lifetime contract with Joe Gibbs. So don't think he's leaving the 11. And Corey Haim's not going to go drive the 11. That's not in the picture. I think that might be for Cruz, to be perfectly honest. All right, everyone, have a wonderful evening. Good luck. Let me know if anybody ends up taking a bag. Daniel, I hope the baby is doing better, and we will definitely make sure we say prayers for Daniel's youngest having a couple little health issues. He'll be fine, though. I have full faith. But everyone, have a great weekend, and we will see you next week for Watkins Glen. I'm almost positive it's Watkins Glen, right? I saw an advertisement for the O'Reilly series for Watkins Glen. Yep, it's got to be Watkins Glen because the Truck Series and O'Reilly are both there. So, yeah. Next week, road course racing. Yay, we can talk a lot about SVG and Carson, Connor Zilich and all that. I'm rocking with Haim in my lineups. Yep, I think it's potentially could be a little bit of a sleeper. It's not going to be as much of a sleeper as we would hope, but I think that's a good call. All right, everybody hit the like, subscribe button. We'll see you next Saturday. Good luck. Bye.
He's going to pace the field?
Yep.
Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here.
Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so gotta be around the end to do that.
Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun. Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checker. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker five, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud.
Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.